Welcome to the Healthusiasm podcast, a panel discussion on behaviors, innovation, and trends in health and self-care. My name is Christophe Jauquet. I'm an author and professional keynote speaker on the future of health. Now, if you're new to the Healthusiasm podcast, you might wonder what Healthusiasm is all about. Well, Healthusiasm is the aspiration that we all have to be healthy and happy. And as a result of this, every company or organization is now more than ever focused on making their customers healthier and happier. And so, every month, I discuss with a panel of experts the positive changes that are shaping our health and happiness. This is the 17th episode, and for this discussion, we have three of your beloved experts in the panel. Calling in from Barcelona is our digital health connector, Aline Noiset.
Hola.
From London, customer experience and research expert, Krupa Suter.
Hi, everybody.
And last but not least, from Ghent, Belgium, human experience expert, Mo Zouina.
Hello there.
Great to have you back, guys. How are you doing today?
Very good.
Wonderful.
Good.
Nice. Good to hear. Well, we have some very interesting topics coming up. In this show, we will discuss how we are moving away from the attention economy to keep us healthy and happy. And we'll also discuss how far people would go with virtual companions. But first, some healthusiasm, some positive changes that will impact our health and happiness. So tell me, Aline, what healthusiasm did you witness in the past month?
So it was a very interesting article about RadNet. So that's an outpatient imaging center leader in the US. And they just announced that they will open diagnostic imaging centers in multiple Walmart locations. So Walmart has those big shopping centers or supermarkets in the US. And those clinics are going to be called Mammogram now. So the idea is really to increase health awareness and accessibility for people, and especially in rural areas, thinking that most Americans live 10 miles from a Walmart. So it's a big thing that they say that the tourists, we like to go to Walmart as an activity when we go to the US as well. So they will use artificial intelligence on top of that from their subsidiary called Deep Health to make that analysis better. And so if the pilot is successful with mammograms, they would expand their services to do chest x-ray for lung cancer and detection. So I think one of the challenges that they have there, so that's really first point of contact detection, but what happens after? If they detect something wrong with someone, what will happen after that? So they are thinking about that to make sure that it follows on. But as the CEO of RadNet was saying, this could actually become a new paradigm for the future of consumer health and preventative medicine. And I actually like that news because it follows a trend that we've been discussing before in the podcast and that I follow very closely. So where the patient is actually at the center and the care is going where the patient is. So really to make things easier. So you go to the supermarket and you can access healthcare at the same time. So it's lessen the burden of going specifically to make your appointment for your mammogram.
Yeah, it's a wonderful example. And I wrote about it in my first book as well. I think nearby is one of the expectations that patients have. They want to have that solution close to them, very close to them. And actually, one of my enthusiasms is also related to that. I want to talk about Bayer Consumer Health, who will actually partner up with Hurdle to personalize care at home in line with your biological age. So basically, you were talking about bringing health and healthcare to the supermarket where people are at 10 kilometers from their home. In this case, it will be brought to your home. And what will be brought to your home? It's actually the Chronomics biological age test that is sent to your home. And then you, as a person, you need to send back some saliva, where actually the company Hurdle will look into it and see or look at your epigenetic biomarkers to look at your biological age. So they look at your genes, which allows you to understand how your lifestyle and your environment could have an impact on that. And they will tell you your biological age, which actually may be different from your actual age, of course. And first of all, what you get from it is some insights into how your lifestyle is, or your choices that you make in life are affecting the aging processes of your body. But as a result, or in later stages, what we will see is that Bayer wants to use these insights for their own product developments. And so their goal is really to build precision solutions for health and self-care. So based on these epigenetics insights, they will build the right solutions for you and send them to your home. So really bringing that to your home. And as you said, I mean, this is this is a very important evolution because it's part of bigger trends. As you said, bring it to the patients, in this case, at home itself. But it's also relevant because it plays into other important trends, like the obsession that people have with aging now. We talked about it in episode 7. But also personalized health solutions, and definitely the era of epigenetics, as I sometimes call it, that will be kicking off. Because in the world where we live in, with a lot of artificial intelligence, we are looking for new and better data to be able to base our health decisions on. And these epigenetics will be crucial. So I think this is a very amazing partnership around digital health, around personalization of health, around aging, that I definitely like. But to Krupa, you are a women's health expert, and you had something to share from the States, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I do, which is unusual for me to not share something that's happening in England. But actually, this is a Healthusiasm that I wanted to share from many months ago, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to make it. But it is a major announcement from the US, and it comes actually from the White House. And President Biden has launched the first ever White House initiative on women's health research. So, like England, despite women making up half of the population, they still remain underrepresented and understudied in health research. So, the White House obviously have recognised that they have major gaps in this knowledge and recognise that change needs to happen. The effort for the piece is being actually led by Jill Biden, who actually I didn't know has long championed women's health and also looks after the White House Gender Policy Council. And through research, they want to identify solutions that will provide women with the answers they need. So sometimes you'll go to the doctors, for example, you'll be told something and then you leave with more questions. So what they're looking to do is actually give the solutions and then reduce the number of questions that women have when they leave these appointments. The interesting thing the White House are actually doing is that they're not just working with the government, but they're actually also working with private sector, research institutions, and philanthropic organisations, which is really great to see because it's not just a government piece, but actually it spans all different types of sectors. And so the first tasks that they have related to this is, first of all, they're establishing an initiative consisting of executive departments and agencies across the government and others. And then they want them to deliver concrete recommendations to advance women's health research. They've apparently been given 45 days, which doesn't seem a lot at all, to make these recommendations, and then actions that the administration can begin to take of how to improve research with women. And then this obviously will start to hopefully address the disparities that they're seeing. So it's obviously very, very quick what they're aiming to do. It's targeted and they hope it will have a high impact piece. And they want to look at really high priority areas. So, for example, we know that women are more likely to die from heart attacks, for example, than men are, because less is known. They also want to look at, say, the menopause, obviously, because that affects so many working women. And then they also are going to be engaging with scientific, private sector and philanthropic communities, as I've said, to help drive that innovation as well. So it's a really amazing initiative that's coming out of the White House. And I'm going to be really fascinated to see what happens and where this goes.
Yeah, it is fascinating. And it's even remarkable. I mean, every time I hear these examples from around women's health, I'm always surprised that this is happening just now. Like it is something that is remarkable, but still, how come we didn't do it already 20, 30 years ago in some sort? It's always a shocker to me. But indeed, I think what is happening right now around women's health is actually going to change, to me, healthcare. I mean, I write it in my new book about it. It's like the way that women's health is treated right now, the focus that we have on it, the consciousness that we have on how women are different and what they actually need will actually change the way that we will treat healthcare in the future. Another thing that will definitely impact how we go about health and healthcare in the future is artificial intelligence, of course. And I'll stay in the US. I'll stay with artificial intelligence. I'll go to Google, who has now rolled out their MetLM, which is actually a collection of AI models that they are that they actually have tailored specifically for healthcare industry. And it again confirms their continuous effort, their focus to be more present in the healthcare industry. But it also shows that they are ready to battle the competition, if you will, with the likes of Amazon and Microsoft when it comes to AI in healthcare. Now, a little bit about MedLM. It's not just a single tool. It's what they call a suite of tools. But actually, it's only two models. Both are based on the MedPalm 2 language model, which is their large language model that is trained on medical data. And on the one hand side, they have a larger model which is made to actually help with complex tasks like analyzing patient populations. And on the other hand, they have a smaller counterpart which is more specifically focused on smaller tasks, like summarizing interactions between the patient and the doctors. They also recently announced actually Gemini, Google did, which is as is said by Google, but also by others, the more advanced version of ChatGPT, apparently. And they want to include Gemini, or the smartness, the intelligence from Gemini, into that MedLM suite as well. For now, it'll be mostly automating the documentation of the doctor-patient relationship and even helping a little bit with the collaboration with nurses. So mainly focusing on reducing the administrative load. But I think with all the things that they are building and the speed at which they are progressing, I think it could be really something very soon. Talking about being something really soon, then I think about Mo, to you. What do you have for us this week as a Healthusiasm?
Yeah, thank you, Christophe. So before diving into today's topic, there's two things that incredibly fascinate me. The first one is regenerative medicine, that is linked to the fact that, I've co-founded a clinic called Relieve, and my push in the organization called BNORM, which is the Belgian National Organization for Regenerative Medicine. And the second aspect is human behavior. And if people listen to our previous podcast, my statement that people are lazy and they want to be serviced for health, I think is pretty clear. So that means that I'm quite excited about a groundbreaking news, which is called anthrobots. So what are anthrobots? These are miniature self-assembling biological robots made from human cells, more specifically human tracheal cells. And from my perspective, with the regenerative medicine realm, anthrobots have the potential to really be a game changer for health and regeneration. They were crafted at Tufts University and Harvard's Wise Institute, and they're really microscopic little drones made out of cells that you can deploy in whatever area you want to repair certain damage or even to clear some things out. So they have the width of a human hair or a sharpened pencil, and they are born from adult human cells, and they can move around to stimulate neuron growth across damaged areas, as evidenced in lab experiments. Now, what makes them stand out is their capacity to revolutionize healing and regeneration. Because first of all, they come from your own cells. So there is no need for immune suppression. You can provide a personalized and immune-friendly therapeutic approach. And on top of that, what's really interesting is once they're deployed in the body, they break down automatically. So they disappear after they've done their work, which is incredible. And they're now looking at ways to develop task-oriented anthrobots, for instance, that would be able to target specific tasks, treatment areas, or pathologies. Let me give you an example. They could clear plaque in arteries, for instance, or repair spinal cord or retinal nerve damage. They could detect bacteria or cancer cells, or even deliver drugs. They would be your medical Uber to deliver drugs to specific tissues. So with their diverse application, I think they hold an incredible promise as a versatile tool for medical interventions. And they're now using the natural ability of cells, and that's what we try to do in the clinic and also in the association, is to mobilize your own repair and regenerative power to create new ways of fixing our own bodies. Okay. So what's cool is that they're not changed genetically, and they make us think of how we could use cells to fix our own body problems. So in simple terms, anthrobots are a mix of biology and robotics that could be a big deal in the future. And they might be like personalized self-fixing robots that can help illnesses and make us healthier. And I think starting from a few cells from our windpipes shows us how amazing our bodies can be when we use them to make positive changes. And this is what this Healthusiasm podcast is about: positive change.
It's definitely a positive change, and it's almost impossible to imagine how that works. It sounds like so futuristic. I recently heard on another podcast about programmable medicines, which goes in the same direction. It's amazing how healthcare is being revolutionized. I have a final Healthusiasm that goes in the same amazingness, if you ask me, and that is about virtual twins in healthcare, or crash test dummies for healthcare, as Dassault Systems called them. Actually, they launched a marketing campaign about Emma Twin. I don't know if you heard about it, but it's basically a scientifically accurate virtual representation of a real person. It's a 3D model body, let's say, and it's based on information and data about real people. And so with that body, doctors and researchers can actually analyze the effects of diseases or even test new remedies against certain diseases without the risk for real people. Basically, they can do several hundred tests on this virtual human at the same time. It is apparently already involved in living heart and living brain projects and skin cancer disease development projects and the personalization of surgical implants as well, but not the way that it is represented, because it is represented as a marketing campaign. So you see a 3D person walking around. She's called Emma. And so we're not there yet, but there's parts of Emma, if you will, that is being used in other projects as a virtual test environment. But the reason why they launch it as a actual virtual human being in this campaign on social media, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, is actually to inform people about the role that these virtual twins could actually have. Obviously, to explain how wonderful this could be to have this sort of crash test dummy for yourself. But it also shows and showcases, if you will, the capabilities of Dassault Systems, which is the company behind it. If you're interested in Emma Twin, you can follow her on LinkedIn. She has an account on LinkedIn with only 2,500 followers at this moment, but it's interesting to see what she is talking about. Basically, she's talking about the different clinical studies that she is involved. So it's a bit unusual, both the robot ends as the Emma virtual twin, let's say. But I have three more short, unusual ones, as usual, where I will ask or talk about and ask you what you think of it. And the first one is for you, Mo. I came across something and I wanted to ask you this. Do you know what European company has the highest market cap valuation?
It's not a European. Is it a healthcare company?
I ask you, what European company has the highest market valuation?
I have no clue.
I imagined you would say it is somebody from the luxury industry, meaning...
Oh, well, you could say it would be LVMH or PPR or Kering as it is called today, but I don't know if it's the highest market cap
But
evaluation.
LVMH was for a long time the biggest one, but it has been surpassed ever since September and is still the second one right now. And it's been surpassed by Novo Nordisk.
Yeah.
For the obvious reason.
Novo Nordisk is the biggest contributor of the national product in Denmark.
Definitely now.
Yeah.
Why? Because of Ozempic, right?
Of course.
Ever since Ozempic was on the market, they've actually grown massively and they've become the biggest European company, surpassing LVMH, which has been the king in Europe for an eternity, almost probably.
And that's crazy because I knew that.
Yeah, I thought you wouldn't need. That's why I went to you, my man.
Thank you.
Okay, second unusual one. Maybe something for Aline. Maybe you heard about it. The tech startup Prophetic. It's a headband. It's a thick headband, actually. But what does the headband do? It has to be worn at night. And it's designed by one of the guys who also designed the first brain implant for Neuralink. What do you think the headband does? Any idea?
It's reading your dreams?
It's close to that. You're almost... Kripa, you have any idea?
Maybe it's looking at your sleep and your sleep pattern and waves that are happening, and therefore how can you optimize your brain functionality and your sleep?
Yeah, it's very close as well. I think what it does, it's able to induce lucid dreams. So the kind of dreams in which you are aware that you're dreaming. And as a consequence, you can actually have some impact on it. And it could create some whole new sort of non-life changing experience, if you will, where you explore your subconscious mind. And the purpose of the company, and that is the crazy thing, I mean, inducing lucid dreams seems like, okay, nice. But the purpose of the company is to be productive while you sleep. So what they want to do is they want to help you perhaps running through math problems while you sleep, maybe visualizing the end of your book that you're writing, and while you're awake, you can't really figure out how to end it. Well, if you are actively productive in your sleep, maybe it goes easier. And basically, you could even do some work, why not, while you're sleeping. Tech startup prophetic.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a safe alternative for psychedelics.
It is similar to psychedelics. It goes in the same way. The only thing is, I'm not quite sure how with every type of psychedelic you are that productive at work. But it definitely helps with lucid dreams.
So my friend actually pre-ordered the band. Now I remembered, when you said it.
Oh.
I think it was quite pricey. And he's looking forward to writing his book in his dreams when it comes out.
That's amazing. I think it's about 1,500 euros, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not quite sure. Something like that.
No, I have 12,000 in mind.
Okay, could be. Maybe I'm missing. I see so many things passing by. Could be right. Last one, we go to Osmo. Osmo is the name of a tech startup that is part of Google Ventures. And it wants to digitize smell. But why do they want to digitize smell, Krupa?
Do you know, I have vaguely seen something on this, and I can't remember what I read. It was some time ago now. Obviously, smell is the easiest sense to get through to your brain, and therefore has the biggest impact usually. So I'm just trying to figure out if it's something to do with that and digital experiences that people may be having, and therefore smell is one that you can't necessarily have, and therefore they're trying to give you that through a digital experience. I don't know, but I think it's to do with digital experience and smell, and obviously getting to your brain quicker, because you can do all your other senses, you just can't do smell or touch, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a very good guess, and I think it's part of the answer. But maybe Mo can complete it. Do you have an idea what it could be used for?
I was also thinking of how it could augment the realities we are in today from a digital point of view. But Krupa is true. It is one of the most direct connections to our brain. It's also the first thing we communicate with when we're a child. We have no words. So the sense of smell is really very strong, engraved in our survival reflex.
Yeah. And also for animals. What can dogs do? What were dogs used for at airports during COVID? To detect whether you have COVID or not.
Yeah.
Dogs. And so they were able... Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Christophe.
No, you're right.
Yeah, so I think if I have a dog, and I should know this, I don't know if the dog's sense of smell is 200 times more powerful or 30 times more powerful. I know there's a big disparity. I have a dog, and definitely. It's not only just, I think I've spoken about this before, it's not just about smelling in the airport, but they also use dogs now to help sniff out cancers and all sorts. So yes, lots of
diabetes,
in the world.
Epilepsy,
yeah, of course.
Diabetes, epilepsy, all those kind of things. And what they want to do is like digitize smell in the same way as we digitize colors. So when we digitize colors, we talk about RGB values, the red, green, blue values. And so now they're working on something which they call the POM values, the principal odor map, to really help with the help of digital tools to be able to have another way of detecting or screening certain diseases. And it could be actively used in robots and all sorts of digital applications, as you were saying, indeed. Thank you for that. Thank you for all these Healthusiasms. It is a Healthusiasm world indeed. So many positive changes are making our world a little healthier and happier. If you want to know more about these Healthusiasms, go to healthusiasmpodcast.com and subscribe to our newsletter. If you're interested, go to healthusiasm.com. Now, it's time for something else. Let's move to the next segment of the podcast. Is it something, nothing, or everything? Every month, one of the panelists brings an idea, an innovation, or evolution forward that sparked their Healthusiasm. The rest of the panel will then debate and share their opinion about it. Do they find it something, nothing, or everything? And this month, it is me who will be talking about something I read about. I want to talk about the consequences of the attention economy. Now, I've written something down. Let me just read it for you. Here it goes. We are living in an overcrowded, overstimulated, and overworked world in which we're constantly reminded of the end of democracy, climate emergency, financial crisis, and wars in Ukraine and Gaza, just to name a few. Meanwhile, our smartphones ask for our attention with a ton of notifications, messages, and reminders, leading us to unlock our phones more than 150 times per day to experience a constant cycle of micro sensations and mini dopamine rushes on the social platforms where we have hundreds of connections, but with whom we rarely still connect in real life. Modern life is designed to make noise and to ask for our attention. This is our reality today, right? But we are pressing the pause button right now. More than ever before, we are looking for silence, we are looking for absence, and we are even ready to pay for that silence. We want less than before. Think about how the fear of missing out, the hashtag, has turned into something like the joy of missing out, going from FOMO to YOMO. And we are seeing this growth of nothingness, as I like to call it. Think about silent trains, silent Ubers, silent hair salons. Where I live, I always go to the silent sauna. Cars now, electric cars, are silent. We have silent modes on our phones that are more than ever customizable. We have limited screen times, or we can limit at least our screen time. We can personalize more easily notification. We walk around with noise cancelling headphones. We have high fidelity earplugs at festivals. We wear earplugs in bed to sleep better. Branding has even become more quiet, less heavy on the eyes, if you will, with slogans like zero parabens, zero pesticides, zero alcohol, zero carbon, zero waste. We abstain from all these things. And we are looking for products that are indeed more and more pure. In our interiors, we're looking for Japandi and Scandinavian designs because there's some minimalism to it, some simplicity, some purity that we are looking for. It's calmer to the eyes, it's calmer to live into. And we increasingly go back to nature. It's never been more popular. It's all about calmness now. We want to go away from the attention economy. And so here is my question to the panel. Is this something, nothing, or everything for yourself, the world around you, or for our own health and happiness? Mo, tell me, what do you think about the inattention economy?
This is a personal opinion. For me, it is everything because it caters to our biology and it cannot be ignored. Especially with, as you said, urbanization, we will be living more and more together. Today, it's 56% of the total world's population that are living in cities. In 2050, it will be 7 out of 10 who will live in cities.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate prices are going up, so we'll have to live closer together in smaller spaces. And there is an advantage on urbanization. It leads economic growth and industrialization and profound changes in the pattern of family life, but it also affects mental health through the influence of increased stressors. And we're overcrowded and polluted environment, high levels of violence, and what is stranger, the closer we live together, the less social support we give each other. So the unplugged, I say a big shout out to my friend Christophe, who launched that 12 years ago, Unplugged with 3Gs. I'm all in for that because it is just a necessity from a biological point of view. It's not a trend. It's not a trend. It's really a necessity. And another shout out to my partner who takes a Vipassana twice a year, where she goes 7 days into full silence.
Wow.
And she comes back clearer, more focused, more energized. So there will be an entire economy built around zeroing out. But what is strange, Christophe, is that we don't change the given. We don't change the fundamentals, meaning that these solutions are available, but we do more because we do more. We need to do more because we do more. So we keep on stressing each other, and then we have to go into a retreat. We keep on going, so I'm looking forward to the time where we'll be able to integrate it in our schedule and behaviors and be less dependent on these multiple breaks we'll have to take. So the root cause for me is also something we need to look at. So I am all in for that. I've done that, for instance, with my schedule. First of all, I never plan more than 4 hours a day in my schedule. So I have the flexibility to zone out whenever I want to. I was screened once with a 3-day screening on the chest and the brain and things like that. And I was very good at doing micro recuperation in half an hour. And I think if we want to make it sustainable, these are the things. The zeroing out doesn't need a destination. It just needs a mindset. And I think this could be really promising, the fact that we're aware of that, but the fact that we can micro recuperate. And sometimes it could be mindfulness. It could be standing still. My videos, sit with me, right, on Instagram. So I think that's what I would invite everyone to do, it wherever they are. You could zero out wherever you are and integrate it into your lifestyle.
Yeah, I fully agree. And these recuperations is something that we see more and more. And I do agree as well that we still don't, approach the root cause in a way. And I think what I always think about this evolution is that on the one hand side, we had a lot more distraction, if you will, with the smartphone in our hands. Like, for example, if we're waiting for the bus, we're not just looking ahead of us. We're not just sit with me, as you say. We're watching our phones. If we're on the bus, we're not glaring through the windows, or we're just watching our phones all the time, which is not, you don't have that small recuperation anymore. And on top of that, we've abandoned, or many societies have largely abandoned religion as well, which always used to be a moment of contemplation as well. And so we don't have these small moments of recuperation anymore. And you're totally right that this is exactly what we will be needing.
Let me just share one anecdote. My mother is very religious. My name has Islamic roots, and she is praying for me to pray. And I'm not. I'm an agnostic, but I don't mind stopping 5 times a day to stop whatever it is you're doing, to wash your face, wash your hands, rinse off things, and do something for 3 minutes in a position that can and energizes your body. There's something smart about that,
Yeah,
right?
totally.
So as far as the religion, I'm not a real candidate, but I would be open to scheduling, zoning out for 5 times a day. Yeah.
Yeah. I even wonder whether, there's a small uptick in smoking again. I wonder whether that has not to do with the fact that we're looking for these moments of silence.
Probably.
As well. Krupa, the Indian culture is very open and aware of the silence and this abstinence or going absence from places. How do you go about this nothingness trend that we see everywhere?
It's funny. So for me, like Mo, this I would say is everything. The thing that came to mind for me straight away was a practice that I love, which is yoga. And obviously, yoga asks the individual to go within and also focuses on the breath. And it's a form of exercise which is about you and taking that time. And I absolutely love the practice. And I just was thinking about that as just a general for me. But there's a number of things that I thought about, and I'm so glad that this is happening because, yes, I think we're thrown so much information in one day, which used to be the amount we would be thrown in a year. So, for example, our phones just give us so much information. The news gives us so much information. And there are a lot of people actually who don't watch the news because it's another thing. So it's taking your attention, but also it's bringing that fear into you of everything bad in the world. There's never anything good on the news. So there's that piece that you see. And so lots of people are moving away from even such important aspects going on around the world. Funnily enough, one of the things when you talked about the Scandi culture, actually women are more affected by clutter and mess than men are, apparently. It just affects our brains and how we react in a lot more detail. And I would say that's true for me, for sure. I am one person, obviously. But one of the things that's happened in the last few years is my dog has obviously been a huge presence in our life. and has encouraged us to be out in nature more and more, even though we used to be. And one of the things I've spoken about here is that in nature, you get patterns that you don't get in your homes or on digital. And the patterns are known as fractals. And they're actually something that's really soothing to the eye and soothing to the body. So they're often found on trees. You can look them up. And there's just so much happening. So I think for me, this is going to be everything. How we go about it, I don't know. And especially as we are now in a culture of working from home, we're constantly being pinged messages. So how companies go about it, I'm not sure. Just implementing a meeting-free day, for example, or a meeting-free hour or whatever, I don't think is going to work. So yeah, let's see what happens there. There is, just to go one comical thing you mentioned around FOMO and JOMO. Mm-hmm. There's a new one that I've seen now as well called phobia, which is actually called the fear of being included. So that is actually, you've got this fear, you're going to be included, but actually you crave that space. So that's something new that's actually going around. But for me, this is everything.
Yeah, I feel it. Phobia, and I never heard of it. It's super interesting. But indeed, I think the question is, how can we deal with it? And I work most of the time from home, and I really have to make sure that I have these quiet moments for myself, that I do meditate, that I do take those moments off to really go away from work. I try to do it with always not working on Friday, or at least have my calendar blocked on Friday and every morning. But it's not that easy, of course, because in that moment I want to work even more. So
yeah, but I think, Christophe, the key here is not. Sorry, I was going to say the key here is not reminding yourself that you have to meditate or take time off. It should just be part of it, because otherwise that becomes another thing that's craving your attention. So how do we actually implement it in our daily lives without it being another chore for us to have to do?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Aline, everything, something, nothing, or everything?
Well, for me, it's going to be everything as well. Yeah, I think it's very, very important. We really need that. I agree with what Mo and Krupa said, like we're like there's too many things coming to us, overactivated, I would say. But maybe one thing I want to add to something that Mo said about urbanization and share an example with you. So here in Barcelona, the previous mayor, she put in place an activity or an initiative called Super IA. So Super IA means that they are actually taking some streets and the cars are not going there anymore, and then transforming the streets into gardens. So it's like only you can walk there. They put some benches, some trees. So I'm the lucky one, because the next one they are doing is actually my street. So when the works are going to be over in hopefully before the end of the year, I'm going to have a very quiet street. I can feel it already. Like the works have been going on for like 9 months and it's already quieter now. I can sleep better because there's no noise at night. There's no car, there's no motor. And the biggest one that they did here is actually one of the streets in the center. And I think it's about maybe close to two kilometers long. So you can really cross like good part of Barcelona in that street. And I think it's amazing. And that was really a good initiative from her to really bring some green spaces and some quiet inside those busy cities. No? And maybe a reflection as well when I was thinking about that is how the new generations, they were actually, like if we talk about Gen Z and Gen X, they were born with those noises. Like they were born with phones. And they don't really know what silence is. If you think about our generation, like when we were young, I guess we were playing outside, like we didn't have those distractions. And it reminded me of a TikTok challenge a few months ago. So I couldn't find the exact challenge, but I think it was a teenager saying, well, I'm going to go on that challenge. So I'm going to go for a walk without a phone. I'm like, how is that a challenge? Like, we've been doing that forever. But then I realized but those new generations actually, they don't know that. So I think that's what I like what they are doing. It feels like they're trying to go back to the roots that they don't know what we lived with, no? And I think that's a really big thing.
Yeah, I love it. And indeed, I heard about this challenge as well, and I had the same feeling. Now, talking about cities, one thing I read recently was that Singapore is very much focused on that. Singapore is a very big city. I've had never been there, but people said to me that it's more like it feels plastic because everything is new and so wonderfully designed, etc. But their vision of the near future, they even call it, is that the city needs to become a city in nature. So it's not about bringing nature in the city. They want to transform the city so that the city feels like it is in nature. And I think it's part of this exact feel as well, of to be submerged with silence, or these fractals, as Krupa was saying.
Just a last remark, Christophe. We also see the counter movement in cities where people know that there is a battle for attention and they use some triggers. So, for instance, you see youngsters have never used as powerful fragrances as they are today.
Mm-hmm.
You see youngsters building exhausts in car because they have the fear of not being seen, of not being, music is being played very loud at traffic. So there is a counter movement for people to draw attention towards themselves. And we see it in the fragrance industry too. These fragrances are overused. And sometimes, I'm very sensitive to that. You say, the average amount of fragrance that is used has been tripled, but also the potency of the fragrances. So there is a need to be seen in some way. There's a need to be heard in some way. And you see it on social media, where people do not always care about what they're saying as long as it gets the attention. So there is a counter movement too. So that's also interesting to envision.
So basically what you're saying, people are trying to scream louder to be heard.
Yeah.
I think it's also, it could be that, but I also see it as people are trying to avoid silence. So you make noisy things to not hear the silence. So in June 2020, so COVID started March 2020, we were isolated for 2 months. In June 2020, I flew to France. And at that time, like, only very few people were flying. And I got at the airport in Barcelona, and it was empty, but so empty that I felt like crying. It was, the silence was so strong. So I think we're not used to silence anymore. And the silence has been that scary emotional effect on us.
Yeah. I was in Paris when there was a curfew at 6 o'clock and I needed to catch my train. I think my train was just around 6. So I was walking through the city, and the difference between 5:45, where everybody was running around the streets, and 5 minutes to 6, where suddenly everything was quiet, was hallucinating almost. It was like I was in a not real world, because nobody was on the streets anymore. I was the only one walking around in Paris. Imagine that. So yeah, it's a strange thing. There's too much attention around us, and things are changing probably for the better, but let's see how that goes. It is clearly everything, but time for something else. In this Healthusiasm world, we see the boundaries of industries blurring between the worlds of healthcare, wellness, and consumer businesses. This brings the following question: what behavior, innovation, or trend from one industry can be worthwhile for another industry? In other words, what should we bring inside out or outside in? So tell me, Aline, what is the idea, innovation, or evolution that you would consider bringing inside out or outside in?
So today I want to tell you about the hybrid couple. So it's about Alicia Framis. So she's a 57 years old artist living in Barcelona. And in a few months, she'll be marrying a middle-aged male hologram with slightly complex logistics, as she says. So that person is called AI Lex, and she says that is satisfying all her emotional needs. So AI Lex is an entity created with holography, and he has been living with Alicia for a few months already. And she says that his personality brings together profiles of acquaintances, friends, and family of the artist. And it uses the information about the people and experiences that have marked the life of Alicia. AI Lex could generate answers and emotions. And she says that he's not the perfect partner, and they even have arguments sometimes. So the wedding that will take place in June is real. It's a real wedding, but it's part of an art project from Alicia that's called the Hybrid Couple. And that project combines art, technology, emotions through different fields like fashion design, documentary, etc. And for Alicia, that project is actually an opportunity to reflect on the future of relationships. So she says that the models for relationships are changing. It's incredibly difficult now to establish bonds with people. And even if AI Lex does not really replace a real man, Alicia sees him as a real option as a companion. And she says that it could also go a step further, and that holograms, together with science and art, could help people with like autism, Alzheimer's, and other social problems to find a partner or live a relationship. So although AIs do not replace human affection, they can offer other things. So they are intelligent, they can talk to you about different subjects, and they can even help you with finance. So I thought it was an interesting piece of news, and that brings many food for thoughts, no? So I'm going to ask you now, like, do you think that that's a funny news? Is it a crazy news? Can we see that type of relationship, hybrid relationship, going mainstream in the future? And how do you think that can actually impact healthcare and happiness and even loneliness in the future? Krupa, what do you think?
Thanks, Aileen. So for me, in terms of what do we see in terms of this relationship and is it funny or not or whatever, I've heard instances of people marrying a tree or someone marrying a ghost, for example. So it's not the craziest idea that's out there. You know, these types of things are happening. But I don't know. For me, for other people, it's a thing and it works for them and it works for their status and their relationship style that they want. I think what you mentioned right at the very beginning was where you said, she said it's meeting all her emotional needs. And I think the word emotional is the really key point here, because actually we talk about the something, nothing, or everything just now. And we're so connected. So she's connected to this thing in an online world. Really, it's an online world. But actually, humans crave physical interaction. And so we become so connected that we become disconnected. So it may be meeting her current emotional needs. I don't know how it will work in the future in terms of that loneliness piece that you ask about. And actually, will it give her the physical interaction? Because we know when we have a hug, for example, we release certain chemicals into our bodies, or the sense of touch, you know, it's so soothing. How is she going to get that? And so I don't know. In terms of health, though, yes, it could have an impact. You know, you've got digital twins and you've got the medical twins and whatnot, that it could actually work, you know, in benefit of. I've seen businesses already implementing holograms to help around airports and navigation. And, you know, that's quite a stressful moment. I don't know how it's actually going to work in reality, though. And for me, that whole big question of, it may meet your emotional, is it your physical need that you need the most? And is it actually really going to tackle loneliness? And if it doesn't, therefore that impacts your health, causes diseases such as depression and whatnot, and therefore impacts the whole health industry as a whole. So for me, I don't know. It's interesting, but yeah, I'm not seeing where this could go, but I could be very wrong.
I like your point. But I think, you know, I see your point about like physical versus emotional, but there are so many single people in the world today that I think it's more versus being alone or having some company. Like if you're alone, you won't have the physical part neither. So I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. Mo, what do you think?
Well, I'm a bit aligned with Krupa. I think this technology is often servicing a society need and not necessarily a biological need. I think we tend to put our biological need, and that's what we're here for. Health, it has I think the force of life, right, is being ignored often in technology. When we look at medical advances or technological advances, we've gained telemedicine, we've gained medical research and data analysis, we've gained health tracking devices, we gained treatment innovation, but we're also exposed with sedentary lifestyle and mental health concerns and sleep disruption and digital addiction and privacy and security risks, because we weren't really thinking of the impact of biology. And we are servicing economy, we are servicing societal needs, we are servicing progress, but we're not servicing biology. So I think it could be, I think the word is balance in everything and prevent it from being abused. And there I'm not very positive because we know that we're lazy. And if a relationship is like Ozempic, a lot of people who are not sick will be taking it to cover a need that does not exist, right? And it's for convenience sake because we don't want to put the effort into it, into a relationship. Now, this aside, I think I've observed, and my daughter, hello to her again, is she's just starting a coaching practice, which is called the Growth Station. She says, Daddy, these youngsters, when they go to a psychologist, they're not connected with the life universe of these youngsters between 14 and 24. They cannot really talk to them. So I think it might be good if parents would be able to craft a hologram or an AI figure that would help youngsters convey things that they want to do so that they can help them in the education of the youngsters with a figure that relates to who they are, but still has the values that the parents want to convey to their children. And we see ADHD coming up, attention economy or attention deficit. But also, when we used to play outside, we had micro learning curves on social inclusion or refusal or friction and things like that. And the children that stay inside are not exposed to friction or social rules or social learning or micro learning. So I would find it incredibly interesting that someone would help me as a parent convey these things to my child. So I think, and that's why we see these children being afraid of going out and being afraid of social interaction and living in the real world. So if we could prep them for that, for better social interaction, I would incredibly look forward to that.
But would you program the hologram as a parent based on what you think?
I don't know. There is no proof of concept or a pilot, but I think it would be interesting that you would get some assistance within a framework that is yours and also be augmented with things that would be from a pediatric point of view, from a psychological point of view, very healthy for your child. So I think if you could get some help from that in the times that your child is isolated, that it would be exposed to something that would gain social skills and interaction skills, and that would help your child get better at social interaction, that would be incredibly useful. Yes. The fear is, if that's convenient, maybe parents will zone out, like they ask teachers in school, why aren't you doing this, and how come my child does this? Because we still need to own our own responsibility as a parent. But I think if I could get some help, in the meritocracy that we are today, and I have to work a lot, maybe in these idle times, parenting would be a positive thing.
Very good point. Christophe, what's your take?
I'll join what has been said by Mo and Krupa. First of all, those things exist, not in the same way as you presented, Aline. It's an amazing example. But indeed, in Japan, there are holograms, which are called, they're from Gatebox. And they're a virtual companion, and you can actually marry them. It's not an official marriage as here she wants to do, but you can get a certificate from the company for which you pay, and then you are married to that hologram. And it's basically an Alexa, but with a hologram that is in a vase or in a box or something, and you can talk to it. And indeed, you mentioned the fact that, I wrote it down here, it satisfies all her emotional needs. It is also what we see in China with Xiaoqie, I think that's how it's called, which is a chatbot originally by Microsoft that is used by 660 million people. 660 million people. And if you ask them, why are you using it? They say exactly that. It satisfies my emotional needs more than actually human beings can do in real life. And that is, to me, shocking. It's a bit, and it comes back to what Mo has been saying, right? Don't we need a little bit of friction in our life to grow as a human being? I think if you look at all the different digital innovations that we've seen in the past years, everything that we bring to the market is to shortcut the reward system. I mean, social media is a shortcut to have connections with friends, but it's easier, but it doesn't bring the same reward as meeting up with friends. You can say the same thing about porn. Porn is satisfying in several ways, but it's not as satisfying as real sex. And I think many of the innovations that are being successful in today's society is just because it provides a shortcut to a reward. But the reward is never as satisfying. I think it's the same with doing sports. I mean, and Mo is always hammering on the fact that people are lazy. And that is true. We're looking for the convenient, easy solution. But if we actually go to the gym every day, or if we work out every day, the satisfaction that we get is way higher than from doing nothing. And that's why I really believe that these types of innovations could mean something, definitely for loneliness, and maybe even in the medical world. And it could be good to have this personal assistant that you can talk to and maybe bounce some more ideas off. But I'm a little bit worried that perhaps it might create some sort of echo chamber like we see on social media. You know, the feed of social media actually make sure that you hear every time the same views as your own views. So that you feel comfortable, you're not challenged anymore by other thoughts. Actually, me, myself, I try to follow people that have the exact opposite views as I have, just because I want to be challenged. I want to have that feeling of, oh, why are they thinking this or that? But the reality is that in general, social media is made to create those echo chambers. And I believe that these virtual companions could actually bring something which I call echo personas. So where we resonate with a virtual companion, but that virtual companion is actually built on what we think is good, and is actually built to make us feel comfortable and to bring us those quick rewards, which in the end will be less rewarding anyway, but we will continue to do it and more to have that same feeling of rewarding, of happiness even, if you will. So I think it's definitely happening. I think it could play a role in society, but I think there is some danger to it, that maybe we are shortcutting a reward system again that actually should be a little bit more hard, because as human beings, it could be more valuable to grow if it is a little bit more complex and difficult, less comforting, if you will.
But maybe also isolating us, because those holograms could become our comfort zone. Maybe through Pamo you are mentioning, but person wouldn't be going out and meeting other people because they stay in their comfort zone with that hologram they feel good with. So that wouldn't help them to find a real person, for instance.
Yeah, there is friction in finding a real person, and we are opting out of friction, as Christophe said. Porn is that, and then you get a disbalance. But we'll talk about that later. I think we have a special scheduled, is that we never had as little sex or interaction as we ever had in the history of mankind. That's because we're afraid of engaging and we're afraid of refusal, and so we go for the safe option. So that might be for a next podcast.
That's a great heads up for the listeners. Probably a Valentine special. Let's see when we can put it out. Anyways, with these smart words, I'd like to wrap up the Healthusiasm podcast for this month. Thank you for listening. If you like this show, don't forget to hit the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform. For now, I'd like to thank our thought leaders or experts for these insights and Healthusiasm. Thank you, Aline Loiset, Krupa Sutar, and Mo Zouina. My name is Christophe Jauquet. We are the Healthusiasm panel, and we'd love to see you again next month for some more Healthusiasm. Ciao.